Hello, family. Recently, I was having a conversation with a group of people, and the topic of horoscopes came up, in which I brought up how the God of the Bible looks at horoscopes as an abomination. And that started a conversation. Most people, they were brushing me off, but then there was this one person who thought that they could challenge that position by bringing up Genesis chapter 1, verse 14, which says, "And God said, let there be lights in the firmament of the heavens to divide the day from the night, and let them be for signs and for seasons and for days and years." Then he went on to talk about how is it that these things are bad if God says that we're supposed to look at them as signs for the seasons and for the days and the years. And I explained to him that he was confusing astrology for astronomy, which are two totally different things. Astronomy is the study of celestial objects and phenomenon, and it involves scientific method. Astrology, on the other hand, is a pseudoscience that claims to discern information about human affairs and terrestrial events by studying the movements and relative positions of celestial objects. Now, in that definition, we have to go into the word pseudoscience, which means it consists of statements and beliefs of practices that claim to be both scientific and factual, but are incompatible with scientific method. Unlike astronomy, which relies on scientific method. Pseudoscience is often characterized by contradictory or exaggerated or unfalsified claims. I then went on to proceed to explain to this person that what Genesis chapter 1 verse 14 was referring to was astronomy, not astrology. And then I gave this person passages from the Bible. Like, for instance, Deuteronomy 18 verse 10 through 11. "There shall not be found among you anyone that maketh his son or his daughter to pass through the fire, or useth divination, or an observer of times, or an enchanter, or a witch, or a charmer, or a consulter with familiar spirits, or a wizard, or a necromancer." In the case of horoscopes, the use of divination and the observer of times would fall in that category. Then I pointed out Daniel chapter 1, verse 20. "And in all matters of wisdom and understanding that the king inquired of them, he found them 10 times better than all the magicians and astrologers that were in all his realm." Now I want to pause right there as to not get mystified, for that chapter is in reference to the Babylonian king Nebuchadnezzar, giving praise to Daniel for being gifted with the vision and insight from the God of the Bible. Which leads me to the metaphysical aspect, also known as cosmology, which is the study of the metaphysical nature of the universe. Also, not to be confused with astronomy or astrology. Now, I'm not going to go too far in depth into cosmology, but I do want to bring up how there is a thing called sacred geometry, and how that sacred geometry involves 4 things: pi, the golden ratio, the royal number, and the meter, aka the royal leg. Now, for anyone that wants to do any research on this, they can do so independently. It involves sacred geometry, and it is relative to the metaphysics. Moving on. And then I also referenced Isaiah chapter 47, verse 13, which says, "Thou art wearied in the multitude of thy counsels. Let now the astrologers, the stargazers, The monthly prognosticators stand up and save thee from these things that shall come upon thee. In other words, horoscopes are like false signs. Now, we live in a society where you have a lot of people who claim to be believers of the God of the Bible. Yet they go about their daily routines, looking in newspapers, looking in magazines, reading the daily horoscopes and applying it to themselves. Or they'll use it amongst social conversation. But the thing is, you can't mix the two. You can't mix an abomination according to the God of the Bible and then say you are a believer of the God of the Bible. Now, I've noticed that this is just a thing that is unfamiliar with a lot of believers. And so that's why I'm pointing it out. In closing, I would like to quote Book 2 of Timothy, chapter 4, verse 10. For Demas hath forsaken me, and is departed to Thessalonica, Crescens to the Galatia, Titus unto Dalmatia. Broken down, the separation caused by Demas' desertion of Paul was not merely spattle, but spiritual. Demas left Rome because he fell in love with the world. In other words, Demas chose the corrupt value system of the unsaved world over what heaven values. And we are responsible for what we know. If you're made aware that horoscopes are an abomination and you claim to be a believer of the God of the Bible, then it is your duty to rid yourself of such abominations, the same way King Josiah rid Judah of the abominations once he found the statues of God.